This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello, hello. This is Fake the Nation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we put the cognitive decline shoe on the other foot. I am your host, Negin Farsad, and oh yeah, we still have a really old guy on the ballot. So today we'll talk about that guy, plus Kamala's media blitz. We'll also talk about the never-ending Netflix library and what it's done to the quality of television. And finally, teen girls' brains matured during the pandemic. What does that even mean? We'll discuss today. You know what? I've been saying this about Andrew McGuire during this election season. He's really been outdoing himself every week, better than the next. It's out of control. I don't know where it goes from here. We have joining us, you've heard her on the show very many times. She's an absolute fan favorite. She's a Broadway performer, an NYC gal. You've seen her on televisions. You've seen her on stages. She's just so smart, so insightful. She's one of my favorites. It is the one and only Peppermint. Hey, Peppermint.
Hey, it's so good to be back.
Now, also joining us on the show, oh my God. First of all, I just love watching this woman. I love watching her brain work. That's the truth. I love watching her brain work. I've had the opportunity of watching her brain work many times. She's so gosh darn funny. And you can see for yourself on the new CNN show, Have I Got News for You? Tune in every Saturday night. It's so fun. She's so funny. She's a runaway hit. It is the one and only Amber Ruffin. And the stadium erupts in
like
cheers.
We're gonna wrestle. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. Round one, ding ding, fight.
That would be the saddest bout. That'd be the
I think you guys would. I think what would happen is you guys would meet in the middle and then compliment each other.
Right.
Yes, and then we'd like sit on the side of the ring and like, eat some candy or something.
Yes. I'd pay to watch
the
that.
wrestlers are roasting me. Just join forces and be like, what is that scarf?
All right, folks, before we get into the show, just want to remind you, you can go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad to support the show. We started a new free newsletter on the free tier. So sign up to Patreon for free at patreon.com/Negin Farsad, and you get a newsletter. It's a highlight of all the stuff we read and my little zingy insights about them. And it's great, and it'll make you interesting at cocktail parties for the entire month. So sign up for that, and then for as little as $4 a month, you get free episodes of the show. It's so fun. We really let our hair down in those bonuses. So come join the fun. Here we go, and let's get into topic number one. Kamala has been everywhere. The Call Her Daddy podcast, which I just learned is in the top 5 of podcasts. Didn't know. All right. What am I, an American? She's also joined Howard Stern, The View, Colbert, and of course, 60 Minutes. A 60 Minutes interview is a sort of rite of passage. Now, my question for the two of you is like, how's she doing in all of these appearances? And then we can kind of get into a couple of the details of 60 Minutes. But how do you think she's coming off in all of this? Are these the right choices? What's happening? Talk to me. Peppermint?
I think she's coming off the same on a lot of the podcasts. She's doing the perfunctory round. She's definitely answering the where is she criticism, because a lot of people did have that criticism like a month ago, like not doing any interviews. So now she's on her interview blitz, which I live for. I think it's important that she gets out and front and center. But I haven't like seen or heard any, except for The View, really any like news or like policy. I guess The View is where she went to drop her Medicare for all in-home healthcare workers. I was like, oh my gosh, it was going to be Medicare for all, but I guess it's the next best thing.
The ... Yeah, that kept us at the edge of our seats. Also, I love this is what people don't know about Peppermint is that she's such a fucking policy nerd, and that is what we love about her. Amber, what do you think of Kamala's turns here?
I was really shocked that she was like, because I assumed that she would start doing more interviews after the right was like, she won't talk to nobody. But God damn, she is everywhere. If you listen real close, she's also on this podcast. She's doing so many interviews. I couldn't believe it. But I do think it's cool. Like, I think she has a younger staff
Oh yeah, who gets a
because
couple of
Oh,
things.
some stuff
definitely.
where I'm like, ooh, girl.
Mhm.
And then, like, the thought of doing Howard Stern is so bananas. Like, that's bananas.
Well, you know,
No,
Hillary
wait, did she
Clinton
already
did
do
Howard Stern.
She did.
Yeah, I did. That's the one I didn't actually listen to, but I listened to little bits and pieces of all the other ones. Um, you know, it's interesting because I do think, I mean, she's getting a lot of different demographics. The interesting thing about Call Her Daddy, which I didn't realize, is that about a quarter of Call Her Daddy identifies as Republican, and a quarter, I think, Democrat identifies as independent, and the other half identify as Democrats. So you're catching a lot of different types of people when you're doing a podcast like that.
Yeah, when you're
Yeah,
calling
there
her
was a little
When
bit
you're
of
calling
a
your daddy.
backlash, I guess. You know, some people were like, "Ah, she's on here," but you know, like she's definitely in my book, in my personal scorebook, which I'm the only one. I'm not even scoring it. She is doing definitely better than I think Hillary Clinton was doing at this point in time in the podcast and interview game, because Hillary was like at this point, like with Charlemagne pulling out, like saying she had hot sauce in her bag.
Oh my God, that's
And I'm
right.
not sure that she really did. And I'm like,
Yeah. I remember that.
do you really need, no one was expecting to have Hillary Clinton say she had hot sauce in her bag. So now that she said it, we're kind of like, what?
Right.
Do you really? Now we want to see it.
It's so funny. It kind of reminds me of I have a magician friend who always gets asked to do magic, like wherever, you know, he goes, and he always has to carry like random objects on him at any
Oh my gosh.
to like pull them out and do magic. And so after that hot sauce incident, I was like, she's condemned for the rest of her life to actually have hot sauce in her like a magic trick. She has to produce it every time. Let's talk a little bit about the 60 Minutes interview. Now, she said she had a couple of moments like that I didn't love. The point where you see like that she sounds like a little bit of a politician, and then points where she sounds like a human being. And I'll point, like, one of the things she said about Ukraine, she said there will be no success in ending that war without Ukraine and the UN Charter participating in what that success looks like. To me, that is an indirect way of talking that makes people angry. You know what I mean? I prefer it when she said, she followed it up later on by saying Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine. That's the kind of shit. Yeah. That's the kind of shit people want to hear. And so she does that sometimes. It's a little bit of a legal, be careful talk. And and it means something, right? She's just basically saying, you know, a peace is going to involve Ukraine, say it's also going to be done under UN Charter mandates, right? Like, but she could have just said it like that. You know what I mean? It's like, it does it, the additions of these fucking sentence clauses weirds me out. There was a moment in the 60 Minutes interview about Liz Cheney. Now, Liz is out there, okay, campaigning for our girl. Now, Amber, how many people are moved by Liz Cheney?
Zero. Don't nobody care about no Liz Cheney. I'm sorry. Those Republicans don't care about you. And you know they don't care about
the
you.
Democrats do.
Yeah. You always been our little person we cite as the fucking reasonable Republican, which who knows how true that is. But like, you're not, you're a woman. They're not checking for you.
Well, they had like Adam Kinzinger on the Democratic National Convention stage.
Yeah.
I mean, Peppermint, do you feel like these people move any needles?
No, I don't. I think the only thing it does is it certainly doesn't get the most hard. It's not going to convince any Trump voters to suddenly turn around and vote for Kamala, because Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are two people that basically led the charge and attack against their favorite, Donald Trump. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to move anyone away from Donald Trump. If anything, it kind of maybe shows that there's more of an alliance with the center and Republicans and Republican issues and policies than needs to be at this point. I don't think pandering to the center and saying, look, we got Newt Gingrich and now we have Liz Cheney. Like, that's not what the t-shirt I wanted. And so, you know.
And you know what? It always comes back to merch. And I agree.
Peppermint, that is the smartest thing I've ever heard anyone say about that. It's that I never even made that connection. Like, oh, what do you have in common with these people?
Yeah.
For what? What are you?
Why are they coming to the barbecue now? And who has the seasoning?
You know,
nobody.
My okay, there's one person that might be moved by this, and that's like one of my husband's family members. Because she's sort of this lady who likes, I think she probably was like a Reagan Republican, and she's like in her 60s. She probably voted for Bush, and then when Trump came around, she may have been an Obama Bush. And there's some of those people, the Obama Bush people. Those people who are like, but I like it when everyone's just kind of cool and reasonable. Not the Bush one.
Which means that at 2020, she already had an off-ramp to come over.
Yeah.
Because I think those people wouldn't have made it. Is she still like, I think I'll probably still vote for Trump?
No, you're right. They're probably, they've already been converted. Okay. So now we're just giving them some candy, some Liz Cheney candy.
I like candy.
Okay, well, let's talk about the guy who did not give a 60 Minutes interview, little Donnie. Apparently, he got his feelings hurt by standard journalistic questions that were posed by Leslie Stahl during his 2020 interview, which I didn't realize had been festering in his craw for this many years. But lately, there has been a question of his mental competency. And by lately, I mean for the past fucking 10 years, there's been a question of his mental competence. No, but it's heightened because now he does seem crazier. There was this great New York Times piece where they kind of went through the words, the uses, and the types of words. Do you guys personally feel that there's some kind of credence to this question of cognitive decline for Trump? He is the oldest person running for office in the history of American politics. For presidency.
I do think there is. And I think it has a lot to do with what Peppermint just said about comparing the Republicans to Democrats and what do you have in common that makes you seem less attractive. Seeing Trump next to Biden when Biden was hemming and hawing and couldn't pull himself together, I was like, that's terrible, but there is a lot of overlap here.
Right.
He's bad, but now you're connected to the worst parts of this guy because I'm looking at you in the same frame. And that since they're I'm experiencing
cognitive decline.
I was searching for this debate.
No, but can I also just say, we've made a big meal out of Donald Trump's orange skin for very many years. Here's my ridiculous statement. I believe that his orange skin makes him look lively. Yeah. And in a way that is sort of like orange washes his age into making us feel like he's more vigorous than he actually is. What we really need to be focusing on is that picture of him playing tennis where you see like the butt skin. That is the actual color of his skin, is that butt area skin. Oh. And when you look at it that way, you're like, that guy's really old and not vigorous. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's my I'm just throwing out high level theories here. Peppermint, how have you been tracking his performance?
I mean,
your face looked like you had to really get over thinking about his butt skin, and I'm so sorry to everybody. Go ahead.
You know what? I never thought that would come the day that I would actually picture Donald Trump, both his
cheeks.
body skin from the back and the front, because when they were in 2016, between 2016 and 2020, during like Russia Gate and like all the P tapes, I was like unwillingly picturing the front because after Stormy Daniels' description.
Yeah.
And now I have a 360 view,
Right.
and it's not. I need more orange.
All of it is
right.
unwilling. Yeah, the orange helps. The orange helps.
I'm praying for orange. Yes, I agree. It does make him look more lively. I think his makeup is so badly applied, and I don't usually talk about people's like appearances because I don't care that much about his appearance. It's the rottedness just like exudes straight through his translucent skin. But you are right. He is definitely old. I think I can't tell about his cognitive decline because he was intentionally, he goes back and forth between bouts of maybe cognitive decline and then like deceptiveness and like, dog whistly. So like it all blends into this weird thing that's like all the same flavor. And so it's terrible. Nevertheless, the thing that's more interesting to me is the reaction of the people who are his supporters, because I'm surprised that they will, at this point, it is so clear that it feels as though he could literally go to these people at their job, take their paycheck from their hand in front of their face, rip it up in front of their face, and say, oh my gosh, the migrants are ripping up your paycheck, while he's ripping up their paycheck. And they'll be like running out the door to get migrants and or, like beat up somebody who they think is a migrant who's been here for like since they were enslaved. And so I don't understand why people, the cognitive decline seems to be the people who are supporting people who are so disingenuous and so dishonest, like blatantly, like left and right every single day. Well, and that's the thing that worries me.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely worrisome. Let me give you guys a couple of stats here from the Times piece. They did an analysis of his speeches, his rally speeches. By the way, they're like twice the length or whatever. They're really long. There's 32% more negative words than positive words, compared with 21% in 2016, which is for, according to the doctors, an indicator of cognitive change. He also uses swear words. This one I thought was so interesting. He uses swear words 69% more often than he did when he first ran, which is something called disinhibition, which is something that happens with cognitive decline. This one I'm just saying because I thought it was funny. He cites fictional characters from that era like Hannibal Lecter, which we all know, from Silence of the Lip. But he meant Silence of the Lambs. Meanwhile, I now want to see the movie Silence of the Lip.
Starring
Me
Donald
too.
Trump.
I wish he had Silence of the Lip. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Disinhibition. I like that.
Yeah.
It's every Friday night.
Yeah, honey. You ain't gonna believe disinhibition.
All right, before we move on, is there anything you want, I don't know, voters to do as they're moving into this manic and stressful period of the election, Amber?
100%. I want them to give Donald Trump a chance. I'm just kidding. No, but you know what I do want people to do is to double check if you're registered to vote.
Double check.
Because those stories of people being like, I checked and I wasn't and I don't know how it happened are really scaring the crap out of me. So I've checked like 4 times and I'm paranoid. It's making me paranoid. So I'd like to pass that paranoia on to you.
Yes.
Go ahead and check online if you're registered.
Yeah. Do you have any paranoia you would like to spread, Peppermint?
Yes and no, and yes and no, and oh my God. I gotta go. I want to take that one step further. If you are, regardless of where you fall in the political sphere, if you are going to check online to vote, which I check online to see if your registration status, rather, do it through a neutral
source.
party.
Yeah.
Don't do it from your, like, the politician, even the one that you're going to vote for, because there are some candidates who are basically snaring and entrapping people in certain swing states. We heard that Elon Musk was offering $47 per name that supporters in swing states would funnel over to Republican websites. And so let's not play any of those games. Like, let's try to make it one vote, one person, and your vote. If you believe in that, then, like, you know, go directly to the source, check your stats, make sure that you are registered to vote. And then if you are in a swing state, don't go to Elon Musk's website. Make sure that your ID is in order. Make sure that everything is in order, because there are a lot of newly changed voter ID and voter registration laws in swing states.
That's right.
They purged a lot of names. 1 million people have been purged. I'm sure there's somebody listening that's didn't realize that they've been purged in Georgia. There are ID laws for people who allegedly are, like, I guess, older, that are now saying you have to have your original birth certificate, which really disproportionately affects poor people who are older in places like Georgia and in the South. And then also
disorganized people like Negin Farsad who don't know where that fucking thing is. Okay,
I can't even find the copy. I got like 4 copies. I can't even find that. And then there's also new voter ID laws that are disproportionately affecting people who are indigenous to this continent, saying that they need, because they have their own sovereign nations within our country, they have to have a U.S. government issued ID for the first time. And a lot of people in indigenous communities and territories don't have, like, a normal state sanctioned ID, or that's one more barrier. So do your research. You have less than a month left. I know that was
that was an incredible list.
They're also going to turn away a lot of college voters because where a lot of those lines are drawn through the campus. So if you don't,
you gotta be careful.
If you don't put your dorm, then you cannot vote. So when you go and check if you're registered to vote, get that dorm number in there.
So we've given you a list of like 25 things to be really scared about. And let me just add one more, which is when you're in Pennsylvania, because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court just came out with this decision. When you're in Pennsylvania and you're sending a mail-in ballot vote, I can't believe how long this list has become. You have to make sure that the date is on the outer envelope and not the inner envelope. Okay, so just if you're in Pennsylvania, just double check the mail-in ballot, because if you date the thing incorrectly, which is to say, if you put the date on some piece of paper but not the right piece, then they'll fucking throw out that vote. So
cover it with dates.
Well,
just put a date everywhere.
I know. The Pennsylvania date thing stressed me out the most this week. So, like, I would really love everyone to go and look at your online tutorials that are not made by Elon Musk on how to date your Pennsylvania ballot.
Exactly.
Okay. Now that we've stressed everybody out, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with more. And we are back, and we're ready with topic number 2. We read a piece in the New York Times called How Everyone Got Lost in Netflix's Endless Library. And in it, they make the case that basically, quote, Hollywood has gotten so big that it can't even discover what people really want anymore. Now, we basically have more than we ever could have imagined, and yet maybe we're not terribly happy with it. So let's start with that question. Do you feel a change in television in the last, say, 5 years? Where do you think television is at? Amber, we'll start with you as someone who is on a new CNN television show.
Girl, used to be when you were watching TV, you just had to watch what other people were watching. And I'm saying used to be like 8 years ago. You had to just watch what everyone was watching, and you watched the most popular thing. Then the group that you were following got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yes.
And now it's like, what are my 12 Black female friends who write television watch? And it is. And you used to be like, oh, well, I wish I could watch a show with Black people in it. And now if your show doesn't have a Black woman, I'm not fucking watching it. And it's a luxury I never thought I'd have. It's so beautiful. And I love it. So then it kind of changes how you ingest the world.
Yeah.
You're at the center of it.
Mm.
That was way too far. Wasn't exactly what we were talking about. So I guess my real answer is yes, it's kind of diluting.
Well, so okay, but that's one of
I
the
was following it.
that's the positive side effect, but not
Yeah.
necessarily the goal of what's happening with a company like Netflix, right? Where they were able to go so niche that you
Yeah.
could make a show that would appeal to Black female comedy writers, you know?
Yeah.
And but that's now, it sort of feels like it's maybe taken another turn where the money that was propping up those things, which was a lot of venture capital, expected a return. And then once they started to expect a return, the sort of like quality of all of those shows, and I don't know if you agree with this, Amber, has turned into something that they're calling mid TV. We used to be at peak TV, and now we're at mid TV. I don't know, Peppermint, what do you think?
Is that what they're calling it?
Mid,
I've never heard that.
yeah.
That's such a slur. Who's on mid TV? Oh my God. I think I'm on like what's below mid TV. Oh no. I think
Yeah.
let's stop talking about it. The point is wow, that dragged me. I think that you're 100% right. Listen, I mean, the model used to be at least understandable, where like everybody would tune in, like Amber said, pretty much all at the same time, and we would watch what was on there, and then there was like commercials, and that was what it would be. And now, even though I think that they are going to start putting commercials on Netflix, I don't really know.
Yeah, they have.
Oh good Lord. But like I don't know how they're going to make the money, because now there's like 14,000 programs. There are 14,000 channels, 14,000 platforms, and 14,000 programs. And so there's so much content, because I guess it's because it's so individualized per demographic, like Amber was saying. But even worse than that is they're not even giving a lot of these shows much time to like see if they can sink or swim.
Yeah.
They're like canceling them before they even get into the water. You
Right.
know, that Jeff Goldblum show was like 2 weeks old and they canceled it.
I don't even know what you're talking about. There's a Jeff
Yeah,
It's
Goldblum
called
show.
Chaos. I think it's Jeff Goldblum. I can't tell who it is. Whoever it is. They look like, I didn't watch it. I
Okay.
guess that's the point.
But that's the other point, is that I'm like, I didn't know there was a Jeff Goldblum show. I didn't know there's a show called Chaos. I didn't know. This is the thing that I feel like has happened for me in the last 5 years, is that I also get my news recommendations from, 5 female Black television writers. But then I don't understand what there's like shows like Outer Banks and Ginny in Georgia and The Gentleman, and I don't know what. There's these shows, if you look at the list.
You said Ginny in Georgia?
Is it Ginny in Georgia, or did I mess that up?
Isn't that
What a deep cut.
But Amber, this is my point. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe Ginny in Georgia is in fact not a deep cut. I feel like it's one of Netflix's top 20 shows of the last whatever years. You know what I mean? And none of us have seen it. Have either of you seen it?
I watched the whole thing.
I watched the one.
You're
I did. Yeah.
You
I watched one episode.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. But
I know what you're talking about. That mother and daughter, right? And I was
guess.
like, oh.
And they look, and I think everything looks
Yeah.
sun dappled. I think from the thumbnail
Yeah.
I saw, everything looks, which gives me a lot of authority to talk about it. Is the thumbnail.
I knew it wasn't for me, because I watched the episode, and after the episode, I still needed to go and watch the trailer to see what the show was about. I was like, I don't think I get this isn't for me. I don't get it.
And the funny thing is, I don't think Ginny in Georgia is like a twisty, plot-driven, you know what I mean? I think it's just about sun-dappled scenes. Okay,
Yeah.
my point is
you
this.
were looking for something that is not there.
Right, exactly. You were looking for some insight, for some high quality. Now, I'm going to read you guys a quote from the piece that I thought laid out what the thing is that we're experiencing with Ginny in Georgia, which is, This is a quote from the piece. What we're paying for in the end is not any one show or any 3 or 10 or 50 shows, but rather this fathomless sense of abundance. Now that you're sort of like paying for a subscription that'll give you endless stuff. My question is, do you want this much stuff?
Yes.
You do. You want there to be a ton of shit that will like never even surface in your algorithm.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
And
Okay.
the algorithm knows me. It knows what I want.
God, I don't have this relationship
Well,
with my
I
algorithm.
guess this is just their way of trying to improve-ish on the internet, because I think there was like at least 5 minutes where studio execs and creators and people making decisions at places like Netflix and all these platforms said, oh my gosh, people are not watching our programming, or people aren't watching our channels, our mainstream like linear channels, the big networks. They're not watching us. They're just looking at whatever they want on the internet. They're looking at YouTube. And I think like they were upset about that. So then they started to like change their regular linear TV model to match more like what we were doing on the internet, which is everybody's doing their own thing. And then they get a pattern. And then an algorithm came into play. The algorithm, we were not taught. There was a moment in time where we were talking about the freedom of the internet to find what we wanted to watch and find without the algorithm. The algorithm is like, we started talking about that like 6 years ago.
Yeah, and
but we were talking about the internet for like 20 years. Yeah,
and it feels like an overlord. And the other thing that happens too with some of these shows is that like Netflix is so in tune with the timing of when things are supposed to happen. Like even an episode of Coco Melon, which is for babies, they know when to introduce like another animal, or else the baby will stop looking at the screen, which to me feels horrendous. And it also removes the artistry. So it's sort of like you're right? So you're hiring people to add an animal to the screen. Eventually you won't even need those people to add the animal to the screen. You know what I mean? Eventually it's just you fucking turn on Claude and Claude will do it for you, or whatever. And so that, I think, is the other thing.
It is that Black Mirror episode.
Well, and this, I think we've talked about the enshittification of the internet in previous episodes. And this to me is like the enshittification of streaming services. It's like, if things are going to be, how do you, so formulaic that you have to end it on a particular cliffhanger, that you have to add a particular animal, that you have to whatever to like keep the thing going. I mean, I think that sucks.
I think you and I disagree here. I don't want it to be, automatically generated by AI. I do think it's fine to enjoy trash. And I think TV, only 5% of it wasn't trash.
Yeah.
And I think if everything gets dumbed down, if everything gets a little cheaper, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I think it's like when people talk shit about rap and they're like, oh yeah, but what is it saying? What is it saying? It's not rap's job to say shit, and don't be looking at rap to find quality. Don't come there for how to live your life.
Right. Just like you shouldn't look at Ginny in Georgia for some kind of really haute entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah. TV is so that my brain stops going 90 miles an hour for 2 hours every night. That's the purpose TV serves.
I used to tune into cable access. I used to that was my thing. Oh my gosh, who are these people? I used to love watching cable access shows that made no sense, and they were each program was 6 hours long.
Yeah, it's pretty good. God damn, I miss cable access.
Well, the funny thing is, if you ask me about peak TV, I think about, first of all, one of the things I point out in this piece is a lot of comedies don't have as many punchlines, and I do feel that way. Have I got news for you? Not included, filled with punchlines. But no, but when we're talking about I think about peak
The
comedy
bear?
to me. Well, the bear, yeah, the bear doesn't have any punchlines, but like back, when you look at a show like Arrested Development or Bernie Mac or Scrubs or whatever, that's like from the early 2000s. Like to me, that was like peak comedy. Like we got so much, The Office, blah, blah, blah. We had so much comedy in our lives. And for some reason, one of the big side effects of venture capital running a streaming platform is that we've been deprived of laughter. And I don't understand, unless it's old laughter, like Friends or whatever, we have been deprived of new laughter. And then unless you're really searching for it. And I think that's really weird and sad. And I think people want more laughter. So I don't know.
Wait, can you say that again? Is that because like the beats aren't written into the piece, or is that we're not hearing the canned
No,
or
because
studio?
the shows are being labeled as comedies like The Bear and winning Emmys for being comedies, and they're
Oh.
not
because
funny
those shows are getting
because
awards
those shows are
and
getting
real
awards.
comedies are not getting awards.
And they also run like just dramas.
And they're yeah, I mean, The Bear is I think it's a
Yeah.
fantastic show. I
Dark-
love The Bear, but it is not
Yeah.
a comedy by any stretch. Like I would not
Yeah.
call that a comedy. And so it's crazy that it's winning the comedy Emmy. So it feels like, I mean, talk about stolen valor. To me, that's like, anyways. All right, folks, let me know. What do you think? Have we reached the enshittification of Netflix or not? Where are you on this? Let's move on to topic number 3. Okay, this is like a weird one, but there's something called cortical thinning, which starts in late childhood or early adolescence, where the brain, and these are the medical terms, begins to prune redundant synapses and shed and shrink its outer layer, okay, which really sounds like we're talking about gardening here. But apparently this
really does.
does. But this is apparently what the brain does. Now, this brain pruning is natural. It's part of maturing, but it's also supposed to happen a little bit later. And a new study has shown that during the pandemic, teen girl brains matured much faster. Apparently, the stress of the pandemic forced their brains into aging much more rapidly. And this effect was only seen in the girls and a lot less in the boys. And apparently, this kind of maturation happens because of stress. Now, I just thought this was fascinating that there's this like difference between girl and boy brains, that they would experience this kind of like shedding or whatever, cortical thinning. And the reason that they're looking at is they need more socializing, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know. What did you make of this phenomenon?
I'm thought,
shocked.
I mean, it made sense to me. I thought, hey, I knew we were aging. I didn't need a thing to tell me we were aging in that damn pandemic. And I'm surprised. And I guess I'm not surprised that it just happened to the ladies. I mean, what could happen to make the men's brains mature? That's the thing we need to figure out.
Right.
That's right.
Amber, what did you
Not
say?
even a pandemic.
But hell, please, man. I feel like this explains why that the brain sheds redundant synapses. Why I can only rhyme. I feel like that's the only thing my brain does.
Is rhyme?
Brain does. Brain was. Ugh. Hey, how's it going? It's so terrible. It's the only thing my brain does.
You know, when I first met you, my first thought was cortical thinning. That's what I thought.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
They just need to come up with a sexier name for it.
I know. Cortical thinning does not, it doesn't make me want to go buy something from Sephora or whatever.
No.
Well, the interesting thing is, okay, so they found that it accelerated cortical thinning more in girls than in boys. It occurred in 30 different regions of the brain. By the way, didn't know there were 30 regions of
That's
guys.
a lot.
Learning
I
so many regions. I just thought we were like working with maybe three or four. And now here's what I thought was interesting, and I don't know, Amber, you tell us if this falls in line with your only ability, which is to rhyme. the effect was most pronounced in the bilateral fusiform. I know you were going to say that, but I'll lie. Sorry, I stole your thunder. Which helps recognize faces and facial expressions. The left insula, which helps processing emotions, and the superior temporal gyrus, which is critical for language comprehension. So this is basically.
So what does that mean?
I mean, I guess that means like we're worse.
They're better at language and recognizing faces?
No, worse at recognizing faces and facial expressions, because that part of the brain.
Well, honey, that with the damn
it doesn't really make
all
sense.
those filters that came out over the pandemic. Surprise, surprise! You can't even recognize whether it's a human face or not.
Yeah.
Well, I was at a stand-up show the other night, and this comedian was saying that she was really like worried about teenagers who were in. I guess she had a teenager who was in the pandemic, because she just feels like their way of socializing is really weird. And I don't know. I'm curious if listeners have it. I don't have a teenager in my life actively, so but I'm curious if any listeners have a teenager who feels that has gotten the short end of the stick. If you've noticed any cortical thinning in your teenager, but I mean, there is something about that I find interesting. That, like, do you feel like, just anecdotally, that you've seen a difference in the way these kind of, late teens and early 20-somethings behave when it comes to stuff like this?
I try to stay so open-minded when people are children.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm always like, you're going to speak another language and it's going to confuse me, and your rituals will be strange to me, but I don't want to call you weird, because that might stop you from becoming whoever you're trying to be.
And also, Amber, it just makes you look fucking old,
That's right. Yeah. And I don't need help. Do not need help to look old. You can tell I'm old with my shoes.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that everyone thinks that. And I think every generation has been like, these motherfuckers weird every single time. I remember at one point I was talking to my dad when I was in high school, and I go, that's something. I said, like, man, Dad, I ain't seen our teacher in the gank. And I was like, how you show up and give us a grip of homework? And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. We straight up don't speak the same language at all. It's like, huh, all right, well, good talk. I gotta go.
And you were like, and Dad, I will never help you. Goodbye.
I'll never help you. This is where I leave you. Goodbye. I'll see you when you're 60 and we speak the same language again.
Peppermint, you had one last thought about this?
But yeah, I mean, I just try to stay away from youth. So, not the theory of youth, but
actual young people.
Yeah,
you embody the concept.
Yes, yes. But I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, I knew that pandemic, that old Miss Panty.
Yeah,
she did a number on us for sure. And I think in a dozen years, in 100 years, they're going to go back and look at humanity at like sort of the cross section on the rings on the tree, and you'll be able to see where humanity took a turn. Right? Maybe for the worse. Just like physiologically and biologically, like, because I know it had an impact on us.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not that surprised. And, I just hope that everybody doesn't turn into a zombie at New Year's or something with their cortical shrinkage or whatever.
Yeah, cortical shrinkage. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny though that I also find myself very deeply trying to avoid teenagers, like, because there's that really, really scary hour between like 3 and 4:30 on New York City subway systems. Andrew's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and it is traumatizing to be around teenagers.
I didn't know there were that many young people
in New York City. I mean, no, it's like, me neither. And so I'll be walking between 3 and 4:30. Thank you so much. I don't need to see the teenagers. They scare me. Okay, so maybe, yeah, and then, with all of their cortical shrinkage, you'd see it on their face. Okay, my friends, that is the end of the show. What a fun show. I could honestly talk to you guys for days. I'm so honored you both came on the show, and I would love for the people of Fake the Nation to be able to follow you and all the wonderful things that you do. Peppermint, where do they do that?
Oh my gosh, you can just check me out on socials, Peppermint247, and you'll hear about all the new stuff that I'm doing, new music stuff, some of the Get Out the Vote stuff, and then also season 2, the forthcoming season 2 of Survival of the Thickest. Also on Netflix.
Oh my God. So exciting. Please follow everything that Peppermint does, because she is a ray of sunshine who is also a policy nerd. And it's like a gorgeous, it's just like the most interesting brew of a human being. So please follow everything that Peppermint does. And Amber Ruffin, where do they follow you?
You can follow me on things, and I think it has to be at Amber Ruffin.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
That's what I choose. At Amber Ruffin. I'm right.
And don't forget to tune in to Have I Got News for You on CNN, where Amber Ruffin, Roy Wood Jr., and Michael Ian Black say hilarious things every week about the news. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of being on a show with them last week. We had so much fun. And you can see that episode on HBO Max or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, Maximilian
is what they call it, is that streaming platform.
It's on YouTube, by the way. It's on YouTube.
Andrew saw it on YouTube.
It's on YouTube?
Oh, it's on YouTube.
We're learning things.
You don't know, Andrew.
Folks, you know where to find me and everything they do. Just a reminder, I will be doing the Muslims Are Coming stand-up comedy show on October 18th in Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading, Berks County, come on out. Also, we'll talk about your mail-in ballots. Just for a moment, we'll mention them so that you all know how to do it correctly. I'm going to be joined by Jordan Carlos, Josh Gondelman, and Gibran Salim. It's a wonderful Muslim, Jewish, Christian sandwich. Come and eat the most delicious sandwich. And again, the tickets are free because we're just bringing comedy to the swingiest of swing states. That's all we're trying to do. And then also, I'll be on Wait, Don't Tell Me this weekend. So tune in. If you're in Chicago on a Thursday night and you want tickets, let me know. I don't know if I have any powers. I might. And otherwise, I want to thank everyone who makes the show possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Andrew McGuire. Thanks to everyone at HeadGum. Thanks to Gaby for our theme music. Don't forget you can support the show at patreon.com/Negin Farsad. Don't forget you can get your t-shirts at NeginFarsad.com. And email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts or questions or concerns. And otherwise, we'll be back in your earballs next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.